Okay, it's time to make a little... That right there is an improvised pistol that I just got done making. And a couple things about it. My hammer spring is this surgical tubing. It's black. And I just put that on up there when I want it. And my trigger is right here. See that? The only spring in this entire weapon is right there. And that is the top of a lamp. It's a lamp fitting. This is just 1/4 inch rod, and it just goes straight through and it's bent up like a hockey stick. And what retains it is this cap, so it's just push through and then put the spring on and then cap it. And then my hammer just goes back. Let's shift it over. My hammer goes back, and then the hook just comes on, and that locks it. I mean, bugs, sorry. That locks it. I mean, it locks it tight. It doesn't want to move. So, bugs are bugging me, sorry. So, it's basically, it's a plywood core. It's a pipe with a welded cap, drilled out to shotgun primers. It has a lug that's about that big that sits down and in. This is cross-pinned. I have 1/8 inch roll pins, one holding the hammer right there, and then the other one I found that this was a little squishy, so I needed a spacer, so I used 1/8 inch. This is actually apple hardwood burl that I had in my shop. I had some remnant stuff, and I thought that added a nice touch, and it fits well to my hand. So, this is just aluminum scrap, and these bolts, I don't know what they call them, but they're a male and female, and I had to trim them and thread them a little bit in order to make them suck in tight. And then the way this is retained, this is actually 1/4 inch rod, just like these pieces are. The hammer actually has a piece of 1/4 inch rod welded to it, and then I actually formed in on a piece of flat stock. I had to grind and file to get my my primer, my firing pin. But these pieces are 1/4 inch flat rod. I hammered them flat. I drilled them out to 1/8, cut them to the length I wanted, rounded the ends so they won't cut my tubing. And then all I have to do when I want to load it is go like this. And I'm just going to leave it like that for the moment. I'm going to measure out roughly 10 grains of powder. And this is just a black powder weapon. That's all it is. So it doesn't have as much recoil to cause me trouble. I wouldn't ever try this with a with a modern, more of a modern cartridge. I got about 15 grains there. I've already shot 10 grains out of this, roughly, and that's about 15. So this barrel is a piece of pipe that I don't know what schedule it is, but it measures 365 on the interior. I did not bore it. I got it from a salvage yard, scrap metal yard. I got a variety of different sizes. This one happens to be 365, which is Makarov, and my cast bullets fit it just absolutely perfect. So there's a cast bullet, and then I'm going to go ahead and get it started right there. Okay, and before I pack it down, I actually want to get my primer in there. So I probably should have had this cocked over first. And what's keeping these together, honestly, they're trapped in here and then they're rounded, so they're kind of pinching up against each other. You can't possibly move anyplace else. And you can yank on this and it just doesn't budge. I mean, it's stuck. So pretty safe. I'm pretty comfy with that. So I've bypassed the sear. I've bypassed the regular trigger spring or hammer spring. I do have a trigger spring just because I want this to return to position. Okay, so there is my primer, and then I'm going to go ahead and lower my hammer down. I don't know if the powder might fall out a little bit when I go ramming on it. So that's just a fiberglass rod. Now it's packed in there, and I'm already primed. So all I got to do is go over to my target here. Kind of fun little weapon. I've been having fun with it, man. I'm just snapping that thing around on the hammer like it's a toy. Of course, it's not a toy, but prior to today, I'd shot some primers out of it. I put in a bullet with just the primer only. And that came out, worked very smooth. I shot 10 grains a minute ago. Now I'm going to go ahead and shoot about 15 grains. So just like that, now we're cocked, hammer's ready. That spring makes us return, so it pulls that way, so we're locked. And then I don't know where this thing's going to hit because I don't have sights. Not half-ass bad. That's where it hits. Right there. Now that is just awesome. I'm thinking 15 grains is about right, and I forgot to put my ear protection on while I was busy doing this video, so boy, I'll tell you what, that's sweet. Okay, so we're going to check over the weapon. I want to make sure nothing's loosened up. I'm going to pull that strap. I'm just going to lock this back into place. I want to check over my barrel assembly and stuff, make sure nothing wiggles. The last thing I need is this thing blowing apart on me. I mean, that would just be the shit. So what I'm thinking about doing, since I have this fantastic concept here, thinking about making these frames in aluminum, do sand casting and make them in aluminum. And that would take a lot of the work out. Now this barrel, like I say, it's lug. It's about, I don't know, about that far from the bottom, about where my thumbnail is. And it's welded onto the bottom of the barrel snug. I mean, that baby's not going anywhere. And then as far as the other part of making this, you can see there's a groove. This groove continues all the way through. I ripped it on a table saw, and then I went ahead and put in some wooden plugs and glued them in so I could drop my barrel in where I wanted it. And then the what would you call it? I kind of wanted to bed this. So I got some hot glue, and right up underneath here I put a couple dimples where those blocks are so I could sit in nice. And then I put a little bit more on the next go right down on the bottom and squished the thing in, and then that filled the whole void so it wouldn't wiggle around on me. This has to be played with a little bit as far as distance, because if you get things too tight here, then they're too snug and things don't want to slide. But otherwise, you can see that, I mean, how hard is it to make, something that wiggles back and forth, right? And you got a rod that's drilled through the handle, and then a spring and a cap. And as far as the mating surfaces, they're both rounded. I think they need to be in order to do what I want to do. They let go quick. But in the meantime, they're retained in that groove. They cannot come unlocked. I mean, you get a reef on it. And there's not enough spring pressure in order to make that break loose like that. I really have to push the trigger. So, there's nothing notched about it. There's no flats. There's no nothing. And then as far as what retains these little lugs, that's just a 1/8 inch roll pin. I drove it through, and then I kind of bent it backwards a little bit. Tap, tap, tap. And there we are. And you can see I did not pull that 209 primer out of there, that shotgun primer out. That primer came out all by itself. Where it went, I don't know. I don't care. But, when it went off, it's basically going to ramp up. It's either going to go over me or out to the side or whatever. The chances of it hitting me is pretty slim, I think. So I'm going to go ahead and load up again because, honestly, this is pretty fun. I kind of like it. So I'm thinking this is the way I actually want to do it, just for safety. I can go ahead and get the primer in, and then we can go like this. Now it's over, and now I'm going to go ahead and drop that down for safety. Okay, that way my hand's never out in front of the stinking barrel. I mean, that's the last thing I need to do is be like some of these goobers that go and hurt themselves. Acting like this stuff is, it is toys as far as I'm concerned, but, I don't need to be stupid in my handling, right? So, beautiful spot out here, by the way. Okay, so, one more down the barrel. One more Makarov bullet. How sweet is that? I love shooting Makarov, and my cast bullets are the perfect size for this barrel, and boy, I could not be happier. So, you know, basically, I'm safe going around like this. This hammer has to hit that primer really, really hard. I mean, it's got to go whack, and if it doesn't, it won't dent it. I mean, it's just that simple. It won't do it. I'm going to put my earplugs in this time. Well, I thought I was. I don't know what I did with them. Okay, one more without them. That's pretty sweet. And you see it's, I kind of use this little wooden part as a step to get the hammer out, the trigger spring or trigger rod out of the way, hook, whatever you want to call it. And then, so it kind of sits sideways. I found that if you put it right on top, even though it's rounded, it'll want to hang up, and I don't want it hanging up. So for a smooth release, it needs to be offset. Here we go again. Now, I don't know why she didn't go. Should have went. I had one of these the other day that didn't go. I tell you what, that primer hit behind me here somewhere. Went over the top and behind me. That's got a hell of a solid whack. And you see that? I mean, I'm 2 for 2, right? Kind of near my X mark. That's freaking sweet. Got to do it again. Got to do it again. It's too much fun. Anyway, so that guy, I'm going to go ahead and release this. We're just going to leave it in that locked position. I'll go ahead and get my primer in there. And then we'll go ahead and powder charge it. And then one more down the pipe. That'll keep this boy busy. You can see, I mean, that surgical tubing is something else. I mean, it has no problem making this thing go bang. Not at all. Okay, so we're going to charge her again. This is a powder measure. It's actually set for 20 grains. I'm not putting 20 grains in it. I'm running in approximately 15. It won't set any lower, this particular measure, so I'm just estimating. And, you know, seems to be okay to do that. And 15 grains seems pretty sweet so far. So there we go. One there. We'll smack her down. Alright. Let's go kill that paper again. Gotta do it. I'll tell you what, the feel of this thing is just, I mean, for what it is, it's incredible. I don't even have sights on this. Look at that accuracy. I mean, I haven't been at a distance at all, but still, I'm amazed. Alright, so we're hot. Look at that, 3 and 3. And this is a smooth bore. This is just pipe. This is not rifled or nothing. So, you know, say what you want. I'm impressed. I mean, I'm checking it over again. Everything's tight. Nothing's loosened up. I'll tell you what. This didn't come to me in like 5 minutes. This concept took a while of, you know, I played with black powder a little bit, figured out how that stuff worked, and I went, you know, making a handgun is really not as complicated as I was making it. And then, you know, there's lots of different things doing complicated trigger systems, and honestly, that's wonderful. It takes a lot more time, takes a lot more machining, more tools, more experience. This doesn't. And obviously it's deadly as all hell. So, anyway, enjoy. Thanks a lot. Bye.